Wind, 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 when will it end? I do not like it in the plains. I do not like it when it rains. I do not like it in the snow. I do not like this wind to blow. When will all this wind subside so we can finally go outside? Tell us when this wind will cease so we can wear our hats in peace. I'll tell you when, I'll tell you how. Cold Rain's Weather World starts right now. Another day, another round of high wind warnings and blizzard warnings and winter storm warnings. Man, what a March it is. Hi, and welcome to the show. This is Jason Pritchard, and you are here for Cold Rain's Weather World, where we talk about the current weather and the upcoming weather, and we have a little bit of fun along the way. I'm so glad that you're here. If this is your first time visiting the channel, welcome in. If it's your second time visiting the channel, welcome in. If you're a regular, welcome in. We just want to thank you for being here. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please consider doing so. It'll help us grow and reach other people. Give the video a like if you like the content, and leave a comment in the comment section. Preferably a prayer request. If there's something that I can pray over for you, we want to do that here, and I certainly will. I'll respond to all the comments, so if you want to leave a suggestion about the show or a question about weather or me or anything else, I'm happy to respond to all of that. We've got quite a bit on the agenda today. We've got a big storm system that is winding up in the plains yet again. This is like wash, rinse, and repeat. And so we're going to take a look at this storm system that's going to bring wind, severe weather, and blizzard conditions again to parts of the Central Plains and into the Great Lakes. So we're going to look at all of that. We're going to start with today's trivia question, as we usually do. Then we're going to move into our 2-minute drill, where we take a quick look at the weather today and over the next 3 days, so that you are prepared as you go on out the door and engage in the world. You want to know what the weather is going to do. I'm going to tell you all about it. Then we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive into the storm that's coming up, and we will wrap up with the long range. We've also got our hometown hotspot. Today's hotspot is, I'll tell you in a little bit, so stick around for that. And we have a word from George Washington, so you're not going to want to miss that either. So we have a little fun at Cold Rain's Weather World, but we always start with our trivia question. Today's trivia question is about great waves, otherwise known as tsunamis. So here is the simple question. Hopefully everybody knows this, but if you don't, stick around to the end of the show and you'll find out the answer. What is the primary cause of a tsunami? A, hurricanes. B, heavy rainfall. C, volcanic eruptions on land. Or D, underwater earthquakes. So think about that and write it in the comment section if you know it. If you don't know it and want to guess, you can still write it in the comment section. Otherwise, leave a I don't know where I was going with that. Otherwise, just wait till the end of the show. Now, we're going to start with our 2-minute drill, where we zip through the current conditions and the next 3 days. So if you got something to do, you can skedaddle on out of here and not have to stick around for the rest of the show. Although I hope you come back to it, because we're going to have some fun stuff here, and we're going to do a deep dive into that system that we talked about. But I'll have timestamps for all the little sections in the description, so you can get right to where you need to go today if there's something particularly on your mind that you want to see. So we're going to start here with this satellite imagery. This is actually the lower level water vapor imagery, and the reason I'm showing this is just so you can see all the dry air that exists over the south central United States, really into the East Coast too. But this is where our fire hazard is, out in here over Texas, Oklahoma, and up into Kansas. And so you can see high clouds streaming in. This system that we've been watching on the West Coast is finally coming on in here, and it is carving a little bit of a trough here in the western part of the states. It is creating a surface low that's just getting underway right here in the lee of the Rockies. That is going to strengthen rapidly, move up to the Great Lakes. And so that's what's going on. And then our other system is departing on the east. And so if we take a look at our national hazards map. Again, this is interactive, so you can click on any of these areas. You see a host of red flag warnings where it's windy, dry, and warm this afternoon. Critical fire conditions, wildfires will spread rapidly. Do not burn in these areas. Blizzard warnings have been issued. I speculated yesterday that they might, and they were, and they may even extend up a little bit more once we understand exactly where that snow band is going to set up. But heavy snow. This isn't like the last blizzard where you had 2 or 3 inches of snow. You're going to see in some places 6 to 10 inches of snow, and it's going to be blowing around with 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, potentially, especially in some of these areas a little farther south. So high wind warnings for gusts 60, 65, 70 miles per hour back here in the plains, and winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories back into the Rockies. Now, taking a look at the current radar, we've got snow and snow showers and some rain snow mix in some areas here into the Rockies, and moving on into sections of Colorado. We've got some light snow across the border of North and South Dakota moving into Minnesota. Other than that, crystal clear up and down the coast of the east. Finally, we get some break from the rain, and it's going to be a very nice day, a very mild day for much of the nation. Temperatures are starting out a little bit chilly. It was actually 28 degrees here at my home in Morganton this morning. Chilly out west. As that storm system starts to take shape, it's going to drag some colder air down, and so you can see a little bit of a chilly regime across the north into the northeast. Mild start for much of the nation. It's warming up. It's 10 o'clock a.m. East Coast time, and so we're at the 60s all the way up into Kansas City, St. Louis. We're close to 60, and then it's a little chillier along the East Coast, but it's all going to warm up today. We're going to get into the 60s and 70s and the 80s through the plains and even challenge some records. Looking at our surface map, broad area of potential for rain or snow depending on where you are and the exact temperature at any point in time during the day. Heavy snow in the mountains. This low pressure is taking shape in the lee of the Rockies. Fire conditions over parts of south central United States, and potential rain and some rumbles of thunder along this cold front extending from Kansas up into the UP of Michigan. High pressure dominating the east, and it's going to feel nice in the east. Tomorrow becomes much, much more active as this low really winds up. It's going to get down into the mid 980s again, so strong winds are going to circulate around this thing, and gradient wind conditions even outside of convection, those conditions are going to exist for quite a few people. Are going to experience gusts in the 30s, 40s, maybe even close to 50, and some areas 60. Where you see this band of hatched here, this is heavy snow. 6 to 10 inches of snow could fall from Nebraska through Iowa, Minnesota, up into Wisconsin, and did some lighter snow on the back edge of that, but it'll be a pretty sharp cutoff on the north here. Another system working into the west, and then you've got a little bit of area of severe weather. We're going to take a look at that in a minute, but just a general area of showers and thunderstorms as the cold front advances on east, and this covers the whole day. So areas out west, you're going to rain first, and then central, and then over toward the east. That's later in the day into the evening hours is when you'll see rain moving into the east. So this whole entire area is not going to be a washout all day, but you will see rain in that area most likely. Another storm system is pushing into the east or west on Thursday, and then that system slides off and occludes up here in Canada north of the Great Lakes. The cold front comes through, bringing some showers. We're not looking at a big severe weather outbreak, particularly with this system, as it's a little bit moisture starved, but you could see some snow on the backside as colder air works in, some upslope snow along the western facing slopes of the Alps. And that is your surface map, your Atari surface map, brought to you by Atari. Now, look here for our temperatures this afternoon. Very, very mild in the central plains ahead of this storm. Strong southerly winds, 90s, 80s, 70s, all the way up here to the Great Lakes almost. And so we've got a little chillier air hanging on up here in the northern sections of New England. That's going to still be above average, but a very mild day for much of the country. Tomorrow afternoon, as that system winds up, heads to the lakes, cold air surges in behind. So you've got 30s and 40s for much of the western half of the country. And then the east, you've got warm southwesterly winds flowing up. So you've got 60s and 70s surging all the way into the Great Lakes and parts of New England. And then a chillier day for much of the nation. A little bit of a return flow sets up here in the central plains, but then along the east coast before that cold front moves in on Thursday, we're looking at temperatures in the 60s, 70s, and 80s down into Florida, and chilly air spilling in behind that system. So that is your 2-minute drill. Now you know the weather for the next 3 days. And now we're going to hear from our friend George Washington, some wise words about etiquette and civility, which nobody wants to miss. So, as we continue our civility and ethics training, we turn to our favorite authority on the subject, which is none other than George Washington. Now, this is backwards in your view, but trust me, here's what it says: George Washington's Rules for Civility and Decent Behavior in Company and Conversation. And we are going to start with rule number 1. This is a timeless rule, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so number 1. Every action done in company ought to be with some sign of respect to those that are present. Okay, well, good word from George Washington. We'll continue with our training another time. All right, so now we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into the main event of the week, and that is the big storm system we've been watching develop and unfold in the models, and now it is here, and so we're going to take a look at it. So this afternoon, and it's really going to start to get its act together over Kansas. You can see snow breaking out in Colorado and Nebraska, and really wrapping up as we go through the evening, and so later into the late evening hours, snow breaking out back here, kind of heavy snow setting up in Kansas and Nebraska. The storm system's really tightening up, and you can see that heavy snow just continue to increase in its intensity. These strong isobars, or these tightly packed isobars, indicate strong gradient winds, hence the blizzard warnings in effect. And so as we go through the morning tomorrow and to get into the afternoon, snow band kind of primarily shifts up into Minnesota, up into Wisconsin, into the UP of Michigan. It could stay just south of the big cities up here, the Twin Cities. Some of the other models bring it up, but it's going to be a sharp cutoff on the northern band of that snow. And so you've got 989 low pressure with some strong wind dynamics, hence these thunderstorms out here ahead in Illinois and Indiana, hence the severe weather risk for tomorrow. So we move this on forward. It pushes up into the Great Lakes region overnight, tomorrow night, and then into the day on Thursday. We get a little skinny line of showers that move through the east coast and on up into the northeast as the system occludes up in Canada. Friday, a secondary area of low pressure tries to develop along the coast, throwing a little bit more rain in New England and some snow on the backside. And so by the time we get into the weekend, it should be a very nice weekend. Now, the Storm Prediction Center has indicated a severe risk, just a marginal severe risk, mostly over Iowa and northeastern Nebraska here for this afternoon. Not expecting a great deal of severe weather here, just a few gusts, potentially a couple of hailstones, but really we're not seeing a lot of dynamics or instability, but the risk is there. So pay attention in those areas. A bigger risk tomorrow, although this is not going to be a tornado outbreak, nothing like what we've seen lately. The temperature is decreasing with height, and there is some strong wind shear aloft, so this presents a little bit more of a hail threat than anything, although some clusters could develop and organize a little bit of wind damage, but we're not seeing a lot of instability here, so not expecting a widespread severe weather event or a derecho or anything like that, but really just looking at a slight risk, moderate or a marginal risk sort of surrounds that down here into the lower Mississippi Valley, up through the Tennessee Valley, into the Great Lakes area, but could see a few severe reports, but I don't expect a widespread severe weather outbreak in this area. But just pay attention if you're, Illinois down to Bloomington to Springfield, over to Gary, Indiana, and potentially down into the western portion, like around Sullivan or something like that. So look out up here. And then as we go on into later into the weekend, Sunday into Monday, we've got another risk as another system moves across. This is not going to be a powerful wound up system like what we're currently seeing, but you could see a little bit of severe weather over the Arklatex. We're going to watch that as we get into the weekend. So just go ahead and prepare for that. There looks like there's a good potential, at least for some severe weather in this area come Sunday and Monday. Subsequent days, not sure about yet. The probabilities are just too low with competing factors for more of the southeast early next week. So we'll watch this as we go through the week. Now, if we look at our lightning flash density from the European model, so we're going to see this storm system start to wrap up here in the plains and produce some lightning over Nebraska and Iowa. Now, this is going to be coincident as the rain is changing over to snow, so some of this could be thunder snow back here in Nebraska and western Iowa, and you guys could get thunder snow with rates 1 to 2 inches per hour, so pay attention to that. Now, not every model is showing this. Some are, though. There's going to be enough elevated instability to create some potential thunder snow for you guys, so that would certainly enhance the snowfall totals that you get. And speaking of Well, we'll get to that second here. So we'll just advance this along. You can see some general lightning and thunder activity through Iowa over the evening. And tomorrow afternoon is where the day gets things get a little bit more interesting. So you've got more of a cluster of thunderstorms over mostly Illinois, and that shifts east into Indiana and dies out as the heating of the day, as you lose the heating of the day. And you see a little bit more in the way of convective activity down in the Tennessee Valley, but really not going to be a tremendous outbreak of severe weather, like I said, but the European is certainly showing Illinois being the primary focus, and that was the focus of the bullseye from the Storm Prediction Center. Now, looking at snowfall totals, generally good footprint here by the Euro, and so we're seeing 2 inches where these blue colors start, 6 inches where the purple colors start, and so anywhere from central Nebraska or Kansas up through Nebraska, northwestern Iowa, southeastern Minnesota, central Wisconsin. That's where it looks like the primary axis of heaviest snow will fall. And where you see that set up, you're going to see anywhere from 6 to as much as 10 inches of snow, maybe even upwards of a foot in spots. It's just going to come down to those mesoscale features that the models have a hard time seeing exactly until the storm system is kind of underway. So where the snow band sets up, where any areas of thunder snow and convective snow set up will matter. You might be 2 inches and then 20 miles away, there might be 10 inches on the ground. So that's going to make a difference, and the models aren't very good at seeing those specifics in such tight location quadrants like that. So watch out in this area here. This is where you're going to see the axis of the most snow. So some other models bring this a little bit farther to the north, but anywhere in this area here is where I would be paying attention for snow, heavy blowing snow with blizzard conditions here. So that's your area for heavy snow. And then our wind threat with this thing, man, it is windy, it is windy, it is windy. It's just so windy out here. And the fire hazard concerns with the dry conditions and warm temperatures just exacerbate everything. So we're looking at gusts today, this afternoon, into the 60s, potentially even 70s in spots out here in New Mexico and Texas. This rolls through and that storm gets its act together. You see the winds just continue through the plains, gust into the 40s and 50s, potentially up in those areas, even some 60s as a storm matures. And then tomorrow afternoon, we're seeing those winds pick back up again, all the way back into Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri. You guys are Arkansas. You're all under the gun for strong winds. And then the winds kind of get out of here Thursday. And finally, you maybe get a little bit of a break so you can wear your hats again, fly the kites, go outside, lock the trampolines down at least for a little bit. Still gusting back here in the plains, 20s into 30s, but nothing like the high winds that we've seen, it seems like, every day for the past 2 weeks. So we'll get a little bit of a break, and then another system will move in later on in the period and probably kick those winds back up again. So that is your look at this current storm system. Now we're going to jump on over here and take a look at the long range, and I'm going to show you the GFS. So the GFS, when we look at the long range, always bear in mind, operational models don't really tell the whole story. They can kind of jump around a lot. Ensemble forecasting is good for the long range because it sort of smooths out the error, and it gives you a better picture generally of what the overall pattern looks like. But what I wanted to show you here is just the activity that we expect over the next couple of weeks. So the GFS brings that storm system on through, and then the next storm system, a little system dives through the lakes, and then it's got another storm system that sort of wraps up. This is the one Sunday into Monday of next week that could bring the severe weather. The European kind of shows this too. And so that system wraps up into the Great Lakes and sends rain into the east. And then we've got another piece of energy just diving. There's pieces of energy diving into the West Coast. They were coming into California and southern Oregon, and now they're coming in more up into the northwestern part of the country. But these systems kind of work through, they strengthen as they get in the middle of the country. Here's another one with the GFS. This is the end of March the 31st, and another little wave of potentially severe weather in the southeast, and another system crashes in. The takeaway is that pattern remains active. Are we going to continue to see these bombs in the Midwest? Well, there's some at least short-term changes that will probably negate that to a degree, but you can still see plenty of activity in the pattern. As far as the upper level pattern, right now we've got a trough in the west, a ridge in the east, means cooler out west, warmer in the east. And as we put this on into motion, this is valid for tomorrow, and we can see that big system wrapping up in the plains. And then we've just got a parade of systems just kind of coming in, one after the other, targeting the Pacific Northwest. So that's where the bulk of the rainfall is going to be on the West Coast. And then as we go on out in time and we get on into Monday, the 24th, we start to see, look at this, a big ridge sets up on the West Coast. So that's going to kind of block these systems from coming in, at least temporarily. We get a little cooling in the east, and you'll see that reflected in the temperatures too. And then that bridge eventually looks like it's going to break down and be replaced with another trough out here as we get on out into time. And this is far out, so this is the end of March, and we get on into April. But look at this, signs of that jet coming, pointed right back at this, in the central or portion of the West Coast. If that happens, you're going to see these systems swing across again, deepen in the plains, provide a severe weather threat, maybe a snow threat. As we get into April, that gets a little harder. But that's your general pattern according to the ensembles, the European ensemble. Temperature or the precipitation footprint, highest in the Pacific Northwest, snow in the Olympics and the coastal range and the Cascades, several inches of rain in between. Systems track across the northern tier, and they drag up a little bit of moisture out of the Gulf, and you get a little higher totals of rain in the east, dry in the desert southwest. Temperature pattern, similar to the last couple of days. These are 5-day averages, so looking out, period ending March the 26th, so 21st through 26th. A little bit cooler in the east, back closer to normal at least, and then it starts to warm up in the west, and you get chillier in the east as you go along. Nothing cold or anything, just back toward normal. And then we see that ridge kind of shift east over time, so the southern tier of the country is above normal. And looking at the storm, or the, let's go to our other display here. Looking at the Climate Prediction Center, 8 to 14, so week 2 outlook is near normal to slightly below up here to the Great Lakes, above normal in the desert southwest and the west coast. Most of your rain chances tend to be across the northern tier where those storm systems are tracking. Could be some additional rainfall falling in here. Just have to see how the systems develop, and then below in the southwest and the southeast. And so we'll continue to watch the pattern evolve out over time. And that is your 2-week outlook. So our last 2 segments are Hometown Hotspot and our trivia answer. And so we're going to start with our Hometown Hotspot. Who is it? Well, today's Hometown Hotspot is Wheeling, West Virginia. So set on the Ohio River in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, Wheeling is in both Ohio and Marshall counties in West Virginia. It's home to just over 27,000 people, and it's the 5th most populous city in West Virginia. Wheeling was settled in 1769, and it served as the first state capital from 1861 to 1870, and then again from 1875 to 1885. One of the most unique things about Wheeling is that it became known as the nail capital of the world due to being a leading producer of cut iron nails. At 1,019 feet in length, one of the most notable landmarks in Wheeling is the famous Wheeling Suspension Bridge. It was built in 1849 and was the world's largest suspension bridge from 1849 to 1851. So basically a 2-year stint as the largest suspension bridge in the world. Unfortunately, it was destroyed by a tornado in 1854, but then it was subsequently rebuilt. So while visiting Wheeling, you might consider dining at the Wheeling Brewing Company, Coleman's Fish Market, to try one of their famous Coleman's fish sandwiches. Or you can try a bacon-wrapped bison hot dog at the Vagabond Kitchen. I've had a bison burger, but I've never had a bison hot dog. Tastes like chicken. Actually, it doesn't. It's really good. Bison burgers are good. You also can enjoy hiking through Oglebay Park, and I have done that, or attending the annual Festival of Lights. I haven't done that. So that is Wheeling, West Virginia. Now, we're going to end the show, as we always do, with the answer to today's trivia question. Why? Because we don't want to leave you hanging. That would not be cool. And we are cool at Cold Rain's Weather World, which I guess is one reason that we wear our cool Kodak shirt. Of course, on your screen, it probably says Kadak. But nonetheless, we have to remember what our trivia question was. And thankfully we do, because we have notes. And it's a pretty easy question today. What is the primary cause of a tsunami? Hurricanes, heavy rainfall, volcanic eruptions on land, or underwater earthquakes. You probably have guessed this. If you didn't know it, you probably could guess it. Underwater earthquakes. As a matter of fact, underwater earthquakes are one of the only things that can really lift the magnitude of the water that needs to be lifted in order to create a tsunami. Also, landslides could do the trick too, which could be precipitated by an underwater earthquake or a volcanic eruption on land. But the leading cause of a tsunami, the primary cause, is underwater earthquakes. They displace the ocean floor, push up the column of water, and you get a big tsunami. Such an event occurred in December of 2004. You may remember this. A powerful 9.1 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia, killing 230,000 people. That was one of the deadliest natural disasters in recorded history across 14 countries. It affected a wide range of the Pacific Rim, and you can actually find videos and footage of that on YouTube, but do that after you watch this video. But the word tsunami originates from the Japanese words su, meaning harbor or port, and nami, meaning wave. Combining these two words describes a wave that strikes a harbor. Of course, we know that tsunamis hit much more than a harbor or a port, and so got to be very careful and take those warnings seriously when those warnings occur. And now you know about tsunamis, and now you know about the weather. Hopefully you've learned a few things today and had some fun. The goal of this channel is to inform you about the weather, but teach a few other things too. Teach a little bit about how the weather comes to be and some of the mechanisms that drive it. And sometimes we know those mechanisms and sometimes we don't. In terms of a specific event, and we have to forecast and predict, and that's the whole game. So when you read about these things on social media or you watch other videos, hopefully you're better informed and you know some of the terminology and you know kind of what people are looking at when they come up with their forecasts. Hopefully they're looking at these things. So that is it for today. I hope you have had a good, enjoyable day, and I hope you have a good, enjoyable rest of the day, and we will see you back tomorrow. In the meantime, this is Cold Rain reminding you that if other stations run 24/7, we got you covered 48/14. All right, so you take care. We'll see you later. Bye.